Hey there. So this week's video is going to talk a little bit about an equation, all right? And so what I mean by that is the equation of how we avoid things. And if we avoid painful things, that it can in turn cause more suffering, okay? So I want you to think about a time where, actually you don't even need to think about a time. Just imagine, all right? Use that creativity and use your imagination to think of if you were hiking, if you were walking with a friend and you felt a rock in your shoe, all right? Real pointy rock. All right, so it would probably feel a little painful. Now, I imagine most people would want to take their shoe off and take the rock out, all right? So you experienced some type of pain and you decided on, you know, this is going to make things a little bit better, feel better, I'm not gonna hurt as much. And so you remove the rock from the shoe and there you go. Well, the flip side is, imagine if you were to avoid doing that and you kept the rock in. Eventually that rock would not just feel painful in that one specific spot of your foot, but it could eventually spread to the entire foot, where now the foot is feeling pain and not just that one spot. And then eventually maybe even the leg, okay? Where avoiding that pain ended up causing more suffering, more than necessary. So we're able to kind of look at these examples from a physical standpoint. All right, so the pain that we have physically, we identify with a little bit easier than the emotional or mental pain that we could go through throughout our lives, facing some pretty tough things or some kind of day-to-day interactions. So this equation is pain plus avoidance equals suffering, okay? Now, a couple things to think about here. First, when it comes to emotions or mental pain, it's very easy to avoid it, okay? On a very simple level, humans, they like to pursue pleasurable things and avoid painful experiences, okay? Instant gratification is reinforced all over our society. And so it's very tough to confront some of these things. And sometimes what we're really talking about here, this pain, this avoidance of that pain, sometimes the pain in itself is something we experienced a long time ago, and we developed habits, we developed patterns that almost prevent us from approaching these in a different way, okay? They become second nature. They become, what I said before, a habit, which, you know, when you have a habit, a part of it is almost involuntary. You don't even think about it. It's automatic. So this pain plus avoidance equals suffering. When we're thinking about mental and emotional pain, the more you avoid that painful experience or that pain that you're feeling, the more you avoid it, it goes from being a very specific type of pain. All right? When it first happens, you're able to kind of pinpoint it, why it hurt. But then as it keeps happening and you keep avoiding it, what ends up happening is that becomes more generalized. All right? The pain becomes vague. And so you can feel the pain, but you can't quite put your finger on it. It's hard to explain, it's hard to specify, it's hard to kind of get down to the nitty-gritty and understand fully what specifically is going on here. It becomes more generalized and more vague, which makes it very tough to confront and makes it very tough to improve if it's so vague, okay? So one of the things that I want us to talk about this week and use as our exercise is basically trying to transfer mindsets, okay? Now, I know it's easier said than done, but we're gonna start with one step here. One thing that a lot of people kind of fall into, a trap people fall into, it's a mental trap, is taking thoughts and instead of looking at them for what they are, the very specific things, and kind of quarantining them or compartmentalizing them and seeing them as one specific area, not necessarily affecting everything else. Okay, so a lot of people, they end up globalizing. So they have an experience with a friend, they don't do well in an exam, they have a hit to their self-confidence or self-image, date that doesn't go well, an argument with someone, whatever it may be, all right? Or just waking up and feeling a very particular way. a lot of times, if you're so used to those feelings and experiencing those things, you can globalize them. So when one specific experience happens, you apply it to a lot of other experiences, a lot of other aspects of your life, when they may not necessarily apply or apply as much as you think they do. All right? So we have this kind of one side of the coin is compartmentalizing and seeing things for how they are. Not worse, not better, but for how they are and specific to what aspect of your life it pertains to. And then you have this kind of globalizing side where you apply it to everything. Okay? So, mistakes. All right? When someone makes a mistake or you feel perceived failure or mistake, then that's a great opportunity to globalize. Okay? So to apply it to a lot of other things and really kind of get down on yourself and hypercritical. So mistakes are things that people have that happen to people every single day. Okay? And they don't need to be fatal. All right? They don't need to be an attack on your character. They don't need to be something that determines your future and the ultimate outcome. And so what I want you to do is I want you to keep a journal. All right? And I want you to keep a list of mistakes. Now, this is a daily exercise, all right? Because the point of the exercise is to prove to you, all right? Not to me, not to anyone else, but to prove to yourself that these mistakes, they happen frequently, but they do not have to deter you from what your goal is, and they do not have to incredibly shape your life in a negative way, okay? And that they don't apply to every other aspect. So seeing these mistakes for what they are and what they're not. So I want you to keep a mistakes journal, all right? Write down at least 3 things that you feel like in your day you made a mistake on, that you did not do the right thing on, that you judged yourself for. I want you to write them down, and I want you to look at them, and I also want you to write how it affected your actual day, okay? So we're going to start with that, but then on the other side, I want you to also be aware of how productive you are. Okay, so I want you to also kind of write down at least 3 things that you felt were productive or positive within your day. Okay, and I want you to also write down how you felt those affected your day. All right, so the goal here is to kind of look at both sides and see the mistakes that you feel like you made or the failures you feel like you experienced, and to look at them a little bit closer and to see what they actually affected versus didn't affect. And I want you to also look at what you feel was productive or positive that you did with your day, that you were in full control of making the decision on, and how those also affected your day. All right, so we can get a fair picture. Like I said, we want to see things realistically. We want to see things as they are, not worse than they are, not better than they are. But sometimes we need to create those 3 kind of scenes in our mind. We see things, if you want to start with worse than they are, create a picture of it being worse than it is, all right? And really kind of amp it up, all right? And then you kind of go to the opposite side, and I want you to think about, what's a perfect scenario, all right? Whatever that may be, whatever that means. But I want you to think about, what if it was better than it actually is? And then find that middle ground of what it realistically is, all right? So start with the mistake journal and the productivity journal. 3 in each, how they affected your day, and look at them a little bit closer to see what they actually affected versus didn't, all right? And how they're very specific to specific areas of your life. Okay, let's start with that, and we'll build off of it, and we'll talk soon.